What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Listography. Jason, Joe, and Crams are here. Talk Week, Day 3, Side 3. And today, for our discussion, we're going to talk about bands that started out with a bit of pop or mainstream success and then made a left turn away from commerciality into more experimental and or artistic endeavors. This is essentially like the opposite of selling out.
Selling in.
Yeah, selling artists that sold in. And yeah, let's see what you guys got. This is an interesting topic.
Should have did this in Coldplay week. Who wants to kick it off?
I can do switch it up. Okay, well, couple immediately spring to mind, and obviously you're gonna have Radiohead. Like, they're sort of like the poster child for our generation of bands that started out as like a grungy rock band and progressively just got more and more out there as they went along. Not that they're completely experimental or whatever, but they've done some crazy stuff. Here's an example of a band that kind of did this a bunch and then like kept coming back. I'm gonna go with Pink Floyd, who started out sort of like they were always weird, but they were like played on the radio. They were a psychedelic pop band. And then they did something like Amagama, where it's like crickets and noises of grass being bent in the wind. And then they turned into like a super popular 70s rock band with, Led Up to the Wall, which was massively popular, one of the most popular albums of all time. Then they did the Final Cut and went like totally in the opposite direction, completely, against the grain, weird. And then Roger Waters quit and they went right back to making like AOR 70s rock with momentary lapse of reason. So they were just bouncing all over the place. Not quite exactly like Talk or Radiohead, but they had their moments where they just went into left field. Here's another one that sort of counts, maybe got cut short, but Nirvana with something like Nevermind and the popularity of it. And it was very much, Kurt Cobain was a weird guy. He wanted like weirder influences, but they basically made it into what turned into like a pop rock record, because that is what the sound became sort of because of them. But then in Utero, they were like, okay, we don't want that. We're going to make it what? Is that how you spell it? In Utero? In Utero? In Utero, yeah. In Utero, they totally went the other way. Not that it was completely experiment. What?
Hold on, wait till we stop.
Sorry.
Wait till we stop. You get a straight face so the cut looks normal.
I'm leaving this all in, so you just...
Yeah, Crams is the editor, damn it. All right, back to In Utero. Nirvana made a conscious effort to sort of annoy like the pop rock people, and even in the production sort of went away from that shiny Butch Vig stuff that was all over Nevermind. Let's go next to Kate Bush, who started out pretty poppy, 70s pop rock with the kick inside, and got really weird by the time The Dreaming came around. She kind of came back to 80s pop a little bit with Hounds of Love, but then she kind of went off again. Like, she just does her own thing. So, and finally, we'll do another progressive rock band that many people know, but definitely sort of went off the deep end after the first album. Progressively got weirder and weirder and more kind of jazzy and obscure. Obviously talking about King Crimson, who scraped the bottom of the Billboard 100 with their debut in the Court of the Crimson King. And then after that sort of went more off in like freeform jazz. There's 800 different members. people coming in and out of the band. And I don't think they ever charted after that. Kind of went 80s pop a little bit with Discipline and Three of a Perfect Pair and all that, but definitely took what could have turned into, sort of Yes, or, some of that more pop-oriented progressive rock, and just totally went the opposite direction and into the depths of jazz with stuff like Islands and Lizard and all that stuff.
All right. Yeah, not too many of these acts that I got went super experimental, but they definitely had a route to like pop stardom or just sticking commercial, and didn't take it and kind of did whatever they wanted to do. And to me, one of the bigger ones that did this and don't get enough appreciation is the Rolling Stones. Probably had a pretty good opportunity to just be a pop rock act. And then after the height of like them being these charming boys doing these catchy pop tunes, they were like, no, man, we love the blues. We love drinking. We love this rock and roll sound that's going on. We want to dirty it up. We want to, get really rock and roll. And they did it in a different way than the Beatles did. A lot more sexuality and pulse, which was really cool. Let's throw in Joni Mitchell. I think it was very natural. She was chugging out these big, hippie, flowery folk songs of the time that were really catchy and well known and of the times. And then I think it was really natural for her to move into like more singer songwriter stuff with, Blue and For Roses. And then she was like, you know what? I really do like jazz. So I'm just going to do that for a few years, and did Don Juan and Mingus, and could have just rode that starlight into the late 70s doing piano ballads and beating out Carpenters and Carly Simon for like that era of the Billboard. But she did what she wanted to do, and you got to give it up for her. Here's one, and this is definitely still kind of a pop act, and they've had pop hits. But I'm going to give it to the Killers, because after their first album, they could have easily just rode like the kind of sexy for young teens dance rock kind of vibe. And really, that's the only album that is like super dance rock. They really gripped their classic rock roots after that. And the other thing I really admire for them is they could have really doubled down with Brandon Flowers as like the front man, the face of the franchise, the sex symbol. They really kind of keep him. Obviously, everyone knows him as the lead singer, but he is by no means like the entire act. You know what I mean? Like, he's still just the singer. The rest of the band is there. Every album is a collaborative effort. So I think the Killers could have turned out a lot different had they really sold out. And I don't think they did. Maybe to their detriment, because some of their albums bore me a little bit, but I give them the tip of my hat. Also going to go with Pearl Jam, who was just on fire after their first two albums, writing these grunge songs, but really had a lot more like classic rock riffage, especially in the guitar, and big production and big sound. And they really reined everything in, went with like a punkier art rock, Neil Young kind of thing. With Vitalogy, and then obviously No Code. Like, listening to 10 as their first album with all of the hits, and then just 6 or 7 years later going with No Code, or 5 years later, like, holy hell, like, what a stray in a different direction for them. So I kind of give them credit for that. And then finally, I'm going to go with, I don't know if this is a good example, because they eventually kind of like went back to this, but The Cure, getting big with like Boys Don't Cry and that whole scene, but then like doing like Pornography and those albums in the early 80s, just like completely different and much more texture and just like goth experimentation with like the mood and all that. I mean, obviously by the time like they had like Just Like Heaven and Pictures of You come out, but they did what they wanted to do when they wanted to do it, instead of just becoming a singles band. And I really appreciate that as well.
I'm going to start out with one that I'm a little surprised Joe didn't have. I've got Silverchair, band who started out like a Nirvana clone, basically. And then I think really, I don't know if they were don't think they were trying to sidestep popularity. I think they were always trying to have hit records, but I think they really pushed themselves beyond what everyone's initial impression of them was, and they made some really interesting records after their first two. Their next three were really cool and interesting, bringing in a full orchestra and bringing in Van Dyke Parks as an arranger. They did some really cool stuff. Next, of course, I'm going to bring up Todd Rundgren, who in the early 70s had a string of hits and was poised to be massively popular. And I think had he kept writing songs the way he was, he may be known, as one of the great songwriters ever, with hits like Hello, It's Me and I Saw the Light, etc. Bunch of hits in the early 70s. And then to follow that with a record like A Wizard, a True Star really just torpedoed his popularity, but it's a really cool record. I mean, to follow something like Hello, It's Me with a record with tracks called Just Another Onion Head and Dogfight Giggle, and it's a wild record. But yeah, he has always done whatever he wanted. And I think you can say the same about Bob Dylan, who has really just forged his own path, starting out straight folk, then decides time to go electric, does a few records like that. Then he, retreats to upstate New York and does the stuff with the band. Then in the early 80s decides he wants to make some Christian records, and he does that. Whatever he wants to do is what he does, and it's very cool. I'm also going to go with Tom Waits, who I don't think ever would have been really like a household name type of songwriter, but I think he could have had a lot more popularity, but instead decided to push the envelope a little, gargle some gravel, and really get wild and crazy and make some pretty out there music. And my last one, I guess I'm going to go with a newer artist. Again, I don't think their intention was to not have a popular record, but MGMT's follow-up to Oracular Spectacular, Congratulations, I think is a really cool psych pop record. A lot different, lighter on hooks than those big hits that they had on the first record, but still I think a very interesting record. And I think it was a bold record for them to make at the time, having just had all those hits.
Any extras, boys? You got to give it to Taylor Swift breaking out of the pop and doing folklore and stuff like that. Really experimental stuff.
I was thinking about the Beach Boys. Again, I don't think they were ever not trying to be a popular band, but I do think that they kind of went in an unexpected direction at times.
You could definitely throw Neil Young in there. He did it about 800 different times, going off in weird directions. Trans, for one. I mean, that was a weird record throw out there after, I forget what was before it, Reactor or something like that. Just total tonal shift completely.
What about Vanilla Ice? Or maybe the first, great white boy rapper, had some huge hits in the early 90s. And then by the end of the 90s, early 2000s, he was doing like scream metal stuff.
I'll take your word for that. I don't know his discography very well.
Well, as someone who doesn't either, because I'm a normal humanoid, I just know that he redid Ice Ice Baby, but it's just like him screaming, Ice Ice Baby. So he did what he wanted to. And I appreciate that. Word to your mother.
All right. So let us know what other acts we are missing, artists that had a brush with fame and then decided to go in a less commercial direction for the rest of their career, or at least temporarily. Drop those down in the comments, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you are not yet subscribed, hit the bell for notifications. Find links to Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram in the description, as well as our website, and we will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.